Reflections of Terror. Once upon a time, in a quiet suburban neighborhood, there stood an old, decrepit mansion that had long been abandoned. The locals whispered stories about the house, tales of its dark history and the eerie events that had unfolded within its walls. The most chilling rumor of all was the legend of the cursed mirror that hung in a forgotten room on the second floor. The mirror was said to be a portal to another world, a dimension where shadows held sinister secrets and nightmares took on tangible forms. Over the years, many had ventured into the mansion seeking thrills and adventure, but none had dared to look into the mirror. Until one fateful day, a group of curious teenagers decided to spend the night in the mansion, determined to test the validity of the legends. As the sun set and darkness enveloped the mansion, the teenagers gathered in the grand entrance hall, their flashlights flickering nervously. They navigated through the creaking corridors, their footsteps echoing like ghostly whispers. Eventually, they found themselves in front of the forbidden room that housed the cursed mirror. With trepidation, they cautiously opened the door and stepped inside. The room was shrouded in darkness, the only source of light being the moonlight that filtered through dusty windows. In the center of the room, the mirror hung ominously, its ornate frame reflecting twisted images of the room around it. The bravest among them, a young man named Alex, approached the mirror with a mixture of fascination and fear. His friends urged him to reconsider, but he was determined to prove that the legends were just tales spun to scare children. As he gazed into the mirror, his reflection seemed to distort, the edges of his figure melting into the darkness. Suddenly, a chilling wind swept through the room, extinguishing their flashlights and plunging them into total darkness. Panic gripped the group as they fumbled to relight their flashlights, their heartbeats thundering in their ears. When the lights flickered back on, they were met with a horrifying sight. Alex's reflection in the mirror was no longer his own. Instead, it was a malevolent version of himself, eyes gleaming with malice and a sinister grin spread across his face. The reflection reached out a twisted hand, fingers stretching and contorting as if trying to break through the glass barrier. Terrified, the group stumbled backward, but the room seemed to shift around them. The mirror's influence spread, causing their own reflections to twist and morph into grotesque forms. Reality itself began to blur as they struggled to escape the room, their minds playing tricks on them. The nightmarish visions continued to escalate, and the line between reality and the mirror's twisted dimension grew thinner. One by one, the teenagers succumbed to the horrors, their minds shattered by the malevolent force that emanated from the cursed mirror. Weeks later, a local historian ventured into the mansion to investigate the sudden disappearance of the teenagers. What he found was a scene of utter horror. The mansion had become a twisted labyrinth of mirrors, each reflecting a distorted and nightmarish reality. The cursed mirror's influence had spread beyond its frame, infecting the very fabric of the mansion. The historian, too, fell victim to the mirror's curse, his own reflection contorting and twisting as he gazed into its depths. The mansion became a beacon of darkness, emanating an aura of terror that repelled any who dared to approach. And so, the mansion and its cursed mirror remained, a chilling reminder of the dangers that lie beyond the veil of reality. Those who passed by could feel the malevolent energy, a warning to never underestimate the power of the supernatural. The legend of the mansion and its cursed mirror lived on, a cautionary tale told in hushed whispers to those who sought thrills in the unknown. Story 2: Reflections of the Abyss. In the heart of a remote village nestled between mist-covered mountains, there stood an ancient manor that was whispered to be cursed. The tale of this manor had been passed down through generations, a story of tragedy and darkness that had befallen its occupants. The most chilling aspect of the legend was a cursed mirror, said to be the gateway to a realm of nightmares. The manor, known as Blackthorn Manor, had a history stained with sorrow. It was once home to the powerful Van Thorn family, whose obsession with the occult led them to dabble in forbidden rituals. The Van Thorns believed that they could harness the power of the mirror to glimpse into the future and alter their fate. However, their pursuits led to unimaginable horrors, and the family was consumed by madness and tragedy. Years later, a group of paranormal enthusiasts and journalists decided to investigate the truth behind the manor's legend. Among them were Sarah, an investigative journalist, Mark, a tech-savvy skeptic, and Elena, a medium with a gift for sensing supernatural energies. Armed with modern equipment, they arrived at Blackthorn Manor, determined to uncover the truth. As they stepped into the manor, a chill swept through the air, and the atmosphere was thick with a sense of foreboding. The walls seemed to whisper secrets, and shadows danced in corners. Ignoring their unease, the group set up their equipment, determined to capture evidence of the mirror's paranormal activity. Elena's presence seemed to stir the energy in the house. She led them to a room on the top floor where the cursed mirror hung, its ornate frame tarnished with age. Elena hesitated, sensing the malevolent presence that emanated from the mirror, but her determination pushed her forward. As the group prepared to document their findings, a sudden gust of wind extinguished their lights. Darkness enveloped them, and a feeling of being watched settled in the room. Mark struggled to reboot their equipment while Sarah and Elena fumbled for flashlights. When the lights finally flickered back on, they were met with an eerie sight. The mirror's reflection was not their own. Instead, it showed a distorted version of the room, as if looking into an alternate reality. But what caught their attention was the figure standing within the reflection, a shadowy figure with hollow eyes and an unsettling grin. Fear gripped the group as they realized the figure was moving independently of them. It reached out, its fingers stretching and contorting as if trying to escape the mirror's confines. The reflection's laughter echoed through the room, sending shivers down their spines. Desperation overtook them as they struggled to escape the room, but the manor seemed to shift around them. Hallways twisted, doors led to dead ends, and the air grew colder with each passing moment. Their own reflections in the mirrors began to distort, taking on grotesque forms that mocked their fear. Elena's psychic abilities grew more intense, revealing fragments of the manor's tragic history. The Van Thorn family's experiments had indeed unleashed a malevolent force that now sought to break free from the mirror's prison. It fed on fear and despair, twisting reality to its whims. As the night wore on, the group's sanity began to unravel. They experienced vivid hallucinations, their minds tormented by the mirror's influence. The boundary between reality and nightmare blurred, and they struggled to discern what was real. One by one, they fell victim to the mirror's curse, their reflections consumed by the sinister entity. Mark's skepticism gave way to terror, Sarah's determination turned to despair, and Elena's psychic abilities were no match for the mirror's power. Weeks later, a search party was sent to find the missing paranormal investigators. What they found was a manor engulfed in an otherworldly darkness. Mirrors covered the walls, each reflecting a twisted version of reality. The cursed mirror's influence had expanded, turning the manor into a nightmarish maze that defied logic. The village decided to seal off the manor, marking it as a forbidden place, a warning against meddling with forces beyond human understanding. The legend of Blackthorn Manor lived on, a tale of mirrors that held the keys to both hidden truths and unspeakable terrors. The village's people could feel the malevolent energy that radiated from the manor, a chilling reminder that some secrets should remain undisturbed, and that some reflections are best left unexamined.